Oh, hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rebel News Daily live stream. It is Wednesday, so you know what that means. It is our special Buffalo Roundtable. It's Western Wednesdays here on Rebel News because the rest of the media in this country treats Western issues like they're afterthoughts, and we don't believe that around here at Rebel News, so we devote a whole day to Western issues. And so you've got your Western host here, Sheila Gunn Reid. I am in Alberta, and my best friend and Wednesday co-host, Lise Merle, is in Regina, Saskatchewan. Lise, how's it going?
Well, it is a great day in Regina, Saskatchewan. It's always a great day living in the West, Sheila Gunn Reid. And do we have a show for our viewers today? We are talking about how canola, the canola tariffs by China are negatively impacting our Western farmers and by extension, everybody else.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to talk about these real important issues, listen to what our elected officials say about them, and a bunch of other really, really interesting topics.
Yep, and we've got an excellent guest already with us, Michael Couros. He is a Saskatchewan-based political commentator. We're very excited to rely on his expertise and experience on these issues. And I'm told we potentially have a second guest, a second panelist joining us. So normally on the Wednesday show, we have 4 panelists, but you know, we don't pay these people. so Michael. So we have to sort of work around our guest schedule. So if a guest is a little bit late, they're a little bit late, but I'll tell everybody how they can get involved in this show. If you want to have your say, you're watching us on Rumble, leave a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat over there. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, it is mandatory. We're reading it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our best to get to it, time permitting. And if you are watching us on YouTube, you can do the same. It's called a super chat. And if you are watching the recorded version of the show, this is my message to future viewers. You can leave a paid comment called a super thanks. And there is our other panelist. I see out of the corner of my eye at the top of the screen that he is joining us. It is convoy lawyer and independence advocate. I guess that's me saying that, not him. Keith Wilson, you know him, you love him, he fights for freedom. He's on the show today too. So let's get into everything. Let's bring our panelists on. Hi guys, thanks for joining us. Let's get into the canola tariffs. So it was announced that China, on top of their 100% tariffs on Canadian canola, are now adding an anti-dumping tariff on top of that. You can call it whatever you want, but it's just another tariff on top of a tariff. And all of this is in response to the insane protectionist policies of the Trudeau government and now the Carney government continuing it on by tariffing inbound electric vehicles from China to protect the highly subsidized electric vehicle manufacturing industry in Ontario and Quebec. And here it is, Canadian farmers in the West paying the price for these policies. But we saw Scott Moe yesterday come out and make a statement. And he calls it what it is. He pins the blame on the protectionist policies on these electric vehicles that absolutely nobody wants. So let's listen to Scott Moe, and then we'll get some reaction from the gentleman and Lise.
I'm extremely disappointed with respect to the decision that the country of China has made in further increasing their temporary tariffs on our canola seeds, which will add to the existing tariffs on canola oil and meal. This is a response to the government's tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles largely, and China's decision to impose preliminary anti-dumping duties, or what we would call temporary tariffs. It's set at 75.8%. That's on Canadian canola seed as of August the 14th, this Thursday. And that will have a devastating impact on the price points for Saskatchewan's canola industry, and I would say ultimately Saskatchewan's ag producers. So let me be clear that this hit will stop a significant amount of trade that is flowing into China today. This comes on top of the decision that China made in March of this year to impose 100% tariffs on Canadian canola oil, canola meal, as well as pea imports, and add to that some pork and seafood exports as well. Beijing has also announced an anti-dumping probe for Canadian imports of pea starch, of which they will be working on in the weeks and months into the future. That is another potential impact for Western Canadian ag producers that we just simply can't withstand at this moment. This announcement, and I would say that the timing of this announcement is in particularly hard on our ag producers in this province and across Canada, as they are hard at work starting their harvest procedures and getting their harvest underway. We've estimated about 12 million acres of canola is seeded in Saskatchewan just this year. And the Canadian canola industry is about $43 to $45 billion each and every year. That is responsible, that industry, for over 200,000 jobs, Canadian jobs. And with China accounting for about a third of our exports, the United States of America would be about 40% of said exports. They total about $5 billion. China's exports total about $5 billion annually, much of that coming from our province of Saskatchewan. To put this in context, this $43 to $45 billion canola industry, Canadian canola industry that we have, employing just over 200,000 people, that is significantly larger than the steel industry, the aluminum industry, and the car manufacturing industry combined. It's about the same size as the Canadian forestry industry, of which we saw significant supports for just this past week. Each of those industries, the steel, the aluminum, and the EV industry, have also been hit hard by U.S. tariffs, as has our forestry industry been hit hard by U.S. tariffs. But canola producers hit with the Chinese tariffs, I would say that they deserve the same attention by our federal government and our Prime Minister as we're seeing in other industries. And we are asking that this be dealt with immediately, and I've reached out to the Prime Minister this morning, and I expect I'll be speaking with him at some point later today. As has our Agriculture Minister reached out to his counterpart, and our Trade Minister talking to his counterpart. We've been asking our federal government and Prime Minister Carney to engage at the highest level since the federal election. And for over a year now, we've been asking, or about a year, we've been asking the federal government to engage with China and start the advancement of those conversations to find our way to a solid and secure trade environment moving forward. The Prime Minister, in fairness, has started those conversations, meeting with the Prime Minister of China, and I would say most certainly now that the next step is for the Prime Minister to meet with the President of China, and I'll be expressing the urgency and the need for that meeting to happen when we talk at the next opportunity. We need immediate action on this file. This is a significant Canadian industry, as I say, about comparable in size to the Canadian forestry industry, and much larger than the steel, aluminum, and EV industry combined. We are engaging with every opportunity that we have. We are engaging at all levels, with ministers engaging with their counterparts, not only in the federal government, but in provinces across Canada. We have meetings planned with Chinese representatives for later this week, and we've been actively engaged on this issue since before even these tariffs were announced, and even prior to the tariffs on canola oil and meal, which were announced this spring. I would say this, we are faced, not only in Saskatchewan, but in Canada and many countries around the world, in an ever-changing geopolitical environment. Our trade relationships around the world are very, very fluid, and they're changing rapidly, changing by the day in some cases. And so collectively, I would say that we as Canadians, we need to very much focus on taking care of Canadians at every level of government. We as Canadians also, and I would say that our federal government cannot sacrifice a $43 billion canola industry, 200,000 jobs in that industry, that is largely based, in fairness, in Western Canada, to protect a fledgling electric vehicle industry, largely based in Eastern Canada.
I will go to Michael first. Michael, I'm very grateful that Scott Moe pointed out the treatment of the steel industry and the automakers and even the forestry industry in comparison to the federal government's reaction to 200,000 jobs and a $43 to $45 billion made in Canada industry. It's really clear that they just don't care about the West as much as they do the East.
Well, here's where I would take issue with that, because yesterday, the Emergency Management Minister, Eleanor Olszewski, came to Saskatoon and announced $4.2 million in funding directed through the Prairie Economic Development Canada, and that'll create 30 jobs.
Oh,
So you
okay, we're
can't say they're not
saved.
doing it. That's cash money. That's cash. That's $4.2 million. Now, mind you, the canola is 43 billion, but it's a good start. Oh, for Pete's sakes! They actually came into Saskatchewan and announced this yesterday.
Huh.
$4.2 million to our agricultural sector. These, unfortunately, here's what I think about sort of the Liberals that are in charge of this. Besides the fact that basically they could, if they were smart at all, not smart at all, but I can see an announcement coming from them that basically they would actually get Chinese operated combines that would be electric, and then basically the Chinese would take the canola tariffs off if we can actually get that settled.
Huh.
Yeah, that would not work. But the
Interesting.
reality is, my fear is either the feds don't know what they're doing or they know exactly what they're doing. And at this point, I don't know which one it is.
Now, Keith, this is the sort of thing that just fuels Western separation sentiments. It just causes it to boil. This makes separatists every single day. Let me be clear, as a farmer and someone who has been a canola farmer in the past, with tariffs and Justin Trudeau prancing through India, that sort of didn't put a damper on my desire to be a canola farmer. But even people who are, identified themselves as Canadians, they see this and they say, this is inarguable. They just don't care about the West, and they're willing to punish the West so that they can help out Eastern industries that are failing.
Well, first of all, giving $4.2 million from government doesn't create jobs. It doesn't create markets.
No.
It's insulting. I'm sure the folks in Ontario and the Liberal government don't understand that a new combine costs $1.2 million.
Right.
So this is like absolute peanuts. This doesn't even begin to shadow the operating costs for one farm in Alberta or Saskatchewan that's planting canola. This is just pure nonsense. But more importantly, it just reminds us of what the Liberals in Ottawa, and in particularly Central and Eastern Canada, that keep the voters that keep putting them in power, they're absolutely clear on what the role is of Albertans and Saskatchewan. And that is, we are to work hard and provide them with the fruits of our labor through equalization payments and sending all kinds of money to Ottawa so they can sprinkle it in other places and around the world on crazy ideas. And if an industry has to take a hit because of global affairs and world trade dynamics, then it's obvious it's not the industries, the cherished automotive industry in central Canada that's going to take a hit. It's not the steel and aluminum industries, not even the forestry industry. It's going to be those pesky farmers out on the prairies that will just, they're our mop. We'll use them to mop up. So this is just yet another, imagine on the positive side, the trade deal that an independent country of Alberta or an independent country of Saskatchewan could be negotiating with China right now, instead of us being victimized and economically harmed by the ideological extremists in Ottawa.
Yeah, and when we look at, I'm glad you brought up trade deals, because the Liberals seem hell-bent on destroying the relationship with the Americans over supply management to protect Quebec farmers and Ontario farmers. But Western farmers, we are just sacrifices on the altar of whatever green reset they have planned with these unusable electric cars. Lise?
No, I'm so happy we're talking about this topic today. Mike might remember that the only time I ever actually cried on the radio, was over canola exports. Mike, it was about 10 years ago. We were talking about this exact same issue. Chinese tariffs being imposed on our canola producers in Western Canada, and I cried. And then my phone blew up with 75 people asking me if I was okay. And I said, I'm fine, but it's just so overwhelming. But all of this to say that we've been at this for 10 solid years. the farmers of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, and in some places BC have been under the thumb of an unreliable, we'll say, trade partner, a relationship that has been absolutely fumbled by the federal government. In 10 years, the federal government couldn't solve this problem. So, Keith, I like something that you said. Could you imagine where Saskatchewan and Alberta would be if we were negotiating our own trade contracts with China? Well, isn't it funny? Carla Beck, the leader of the NDP, just yesterday said, Scott Mull, why aren't you on a plane going to China to negotiate trade contracts? And I say, yes, Carla, this is the energy that we want. Yes, we should be negotiating our own trade agreements with countries that the federal government just can't keep a handle on. Yes, we should.
Let's go. I'm glad you brought up the NDP. Let's go to Manitoba's NDP Premier, Wab Kinew, who, while I disagree with him on a great many things, he seems to be the least crazy of all the NDP. Now that, I mean, the bar is quite low there, but he does put a number on what vaporized from the canola industry in just one day. And let's continue to point out that these are retaliatory tariffs from China to Justin Trudeau and now Mark Carney's tariffs on their electric vehicles.
Chinese tariffs on canola cost Western Canada $1 billion today, and it could cost us more later this week. These 75% tariffs on our canola from China are causing damage at this important time of year. We've been standing up for farmers. Now we need to see the federal government offer that same sort of support that they've shown for steel and auto and lumber. Let's help our farmers. Let's help Canada.
Okay, my concern is, though, that came out of the mouth of an NDPer, Michael, which means when they say support, they don't mean going to China, sorting this out, and stopping the tariffs on electric vehicles. They mean handouts. And farmers don't want handouts. We want the federal government out of the way.
Yeah, you nailed that. The reality is this support to left-wing politicians is new ways of finding welfare.
Right.
Well, basically, some of the most independent people in the world are basically Saskatchewan, Alberta, Western Canadian farmers. They don't want handouts. They want somebody to go and fix the problem so they can do the work. And that's not happening here. And that's sort of the ethos of basically the East. You know, it will make you happy. We'll placate you. We'll throw some more government money at you, and that'll make you happy. Well, that doesn't make anybody happy. And by the way, Mark Carney is he's got a kind of a weak schedule this week. There's one world leader he's speaking to, and that's Zelensky. He's not even talking to anybody basically in China. He's talking to Zelensky because Trump and Putin are actually trying to get this Ukrainian, basically this war over, and Carney's got to be in there because that's what that's what will give him some street cred amongst politicals in the world. That he's got to be in there. He has nothing to offer, nothing at all to offer, right? So basically, why isn't he working with President Xi in China to make sure that this thing happens? He doesn't. He's pointed in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Keith, you know, my concern is they're just going to say, oh, Western Canadian farmers, here's a bunch of money to change the headers on your combines. Go do something else. Right. And, you know, this is, and we pointed out yesterday on the show, there's no more Western Canadian or a Canadian produce than canola. It was developed here to grow here in our climate. It's so much so that it has to be swathed to ripen because of our short growing seasons. It's made for our soil conditions. And yet all the elbows up by Canadian people, they're missing in action on this. They don't care whatsoever.
They don't care.
Yeah. Keith?
Well, what a lot of people may not understand outside of agriculture is that for most farms that produce grains, canola is their most profitable crop.
Yep.
And like an order of magnitude, it's way more profitable than wheat and barley.
Yeah.
And other commonly produced crops, so much so that farmers produce it in a crop rotation as tight as possible to maximize the revenue to stay viable. But, you know, I think what we're seeing here is a domino effect, you know, and it comes right back to the ideological extremist of the Trudeau Liberals, and now we see the Carney Liberals, which is There is no sacrifice too great, particularly for Saskatchewan and Alberta to endure, to promote their obsession with climate alarmism and what they see as their opportunity to reshape us away from a free market economy, based on individualism, rights, markets, and so on, to one of state control because we have an emergency. The reason this canola situation is now upon us is directly related, as we've been talking about, to the EV mandate, which is a direct result of their obsession over their creation of a climate crisis. So, things aren't getting better. I wasn't sure when Carney was campaigning he was trying to portray himself as a pragmatist. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe he's changed. Maybe he's not the Carney of the Book of Values, because it's pretty clear what that's about. It's environmental socialism. But it's becoming increasingly clear. And, I'm not convinced. I'm increasingly suspicious that his antagonism of the United States, our closest and largest trading partner. People don't understand. I've done work with the agricultural industry trying to get access to foreign markets. And one of the huge liabilities we have is distance, shipping costs. The margins are so small that you can't compete once you land your product. So to have this massive market right beside us is so valuable. I'm wondering if he's doing the Venezuelan trick, Carney is, of antagonizing the relationship with the United States and to some extent others, so that it can mask and he can camouflage his economic failures. Say, we would be doing great if it wasn't for Orange Man Bad.
You know what? We saw that during the campaign. The Liberals couldn't campaign on their own record. Mark Carney couldn't campaign on his own record because the Liberals' record was his. And so they relied on Privy Council research that they only had access to, by the way, to craft a campaign of anti-Americanism. The whole elbows up thing was based on Privy Council research that only the Liberals had access to. And I think we're just seeing a continuation of that because we're in a housing crisis, we're in a healthcare crisis, we're in an inflation crisis, we're in a debt crisis, we're in a crime crisis. And the only thing the Liberals can point to is the Americans, because I hope the Liberals find who's been in charge for the last 10 years that created all these problems. Lise?
Mm-hmm. No, going back to Wab Kinew standing in a canola field, wasn't it Coulter Wall that said the devil wears a suit and tie?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that that's Wab Kinew was who he was referring to in that moment, because in terms of trustworthiness, would you trust a man in a suit and tie in the middle of a canola field talking to you? I would not, Wab Kinew, I would not. But further to how this is impacting some of these green or sustainable or net zero initiatives are going to impact our ag industry in Canada, is that even though the consumer carbon tax has been sort of suspended for the moment, that doesn't apply to industry. And in Western Canada, this means the ag industry. And we must not underestimate the naked contempt that Ottawa or Eastern elites have for our Western farmers. Okay, they don't care. They've shown us over and over again that they don't care, and there is no price too big to pay for them. It's true. It's absolutely true. So unless the feds immediately stand up for our Western ag producers, like they are for potential uranium development. Like, let me see that same energy that's going into excitement by the feds on uranium development in Saskatchewan for our ag producers, and then I'll start taking them seriously. But no, it looks like we're on our own in Western Canada. We're on our own.
Yeah, and further to Wab Kinew pointing out that it's $1 billion in one day just vaporized from the industry, and nobody seems to have any sort of sense of urgency on it. Danielle Smith points out that China is Canada's second largest agricultural export market, worth 2.4 billion last year, and they take in nearly 70% of Alberta's canola. So this is particularly devastating for Alberta's farmers, just as they're about to swath. She points out who's responsible for this mess. These tariffs are in response to the federal government's imposition of 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles and 25% on steel and aluminum. So again, Alberta farmers are paying the price for protectionist policies to save Ontario jobs, and nobody seems to care. And
So Sheila,
Yeah.
I've got a comment on that.
Please.
Part of the responsibility is basically the provincial governments here as well, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I make it a rule in my client files never to have a client that exceeds a certain percentage of revenue per year.
Yeah.
If we've got 70% of our canola going to China, we have not done a great job
At diversifying.
at diversifying, because we're dealing with people that are potentially very dangerous and crazy, right?
Right.
Now, same could be said about the U.S., but the thing is the U.S. is a capitalist economy still, and it will remain that way. But if we're actually doing 70% of our trade with China, the problem is that we haven't diversified enough to other countries or other jurisdictions to get our product, so that when they do something inevitably crazy, and they will, we say, yep, that's going to hurt, but our product are going to other places as well. So that lies on the provincial government. It lies also on the feds, and everything that you've said about the feds. And Keith, I think you're absolutely right on this idea that Carney does not know how to deal with Trump, and as long as he can make Trump Orange Man bad, that basically that's his entire political posturing. That's what it is. Unfortunately, things are going pretty well for the people in the States right now. And when will it be that Canadians actually catch on to the fact that they're doing okay there right now, right? So unless you're there illegally, if you're there legally, it's not that bad in the U.S. So I think that part of the blame lies that there hasn't been foresight in governments to diversify our economy enough with enough players. And of course, the majority of the blame lies with Carney, who doesn't seem like he's interested in fixing this at all.
Yeah. Keith, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, that's easier said than done, and I take your point. But for example, in the European Union, they've put restrictions on what you're allowed to import in terms of canola and other grain products that are really not restrictions based on any substantive ground, but ones to prevent the method of production here in Alberta or in Canada from having access. So it's very difficult to get access to markets. It's a decades-long process. That's why when Carney talks about we're just going to create new trading partners, like what is the if we're going to if we're going to sell more soap to Belgium, or all the companies going to say, oh geez, you guys want in, okay, we'll take some product off the shelves for you? No, it's just ridiculously naive. It's dangerous, and everything this guy keeps doing. I've said to a few people recently that I think independence is going to actually happen, and there's going to be a really clear explanation as to why Alberta and Saskatchewan will become independent, and the answer will be Mark Carney. He is going to deliver independence.
And I understand what you're saying about this taking decades. The Saskatchewan Party has been in power in Saskatchewan for 17 years, right? For the most part, the Conservatives, right, or basically whatever the Conservatives are in Alberta right now, have been in power for the majority of the last 70 years. So the thing is, yep, you're right. It's the old oak tree thing. You cut down an oak tree, the best time is to do it 25 years ago. The next best time is now. You're right. These trade partnerships are very complex, but not nearly as complex as a trade partner saying, you're cut off. We're not buying anything more, or putting a big trade. So no matter what you do, it's going to be hard. But the lack of foresight of these governments not doing this 10, 20 years ago is why we're suffering today.
Yeah, and I guess the same could be said about failing to get a pipeline to Tidewater, like an actual pipeline to Tidewater. One last topic on our Western panel before we hit an ad break. I know we're up against the middle of the hour already, but I want to get to this one. Video from Pierre Poilievre, I think doing his best to lean into the separatist sentiment, but I think he is, he's already missed the boat on that. I think the parade is marching and he's not in front of it, but he's introducing the Canadian Sovereignty Act. So let's hear what that entails.
By repealing the anti-development law.
Oh.
The Sovereignty Act will legalize pipeline and other major projects by repealing the anti-development law C-69. It will legalize shipping Canadian energy off the northwest coast of BC by repealing C-48. It will axe the industrial carbon tax, something the Europeans are doing, and given that our competitors in America have no industrial carbon tax, it is untenable to force our people and our industries to pay this tax. We will get rid of the oil and gas cap that kills jobs. We will get rid of the ban on plastics, the petrochemical industry that produces our plastics. The plastics themselves are essential, and so are the jobs that go along with it. This, by the way, this plastics ban is not about, it's just saving your straw. It's about saving you about $400 or $500 a year in food that would otherwise go bad because it would not have plastic to preserve it. And we have a wonderful Alberta-based petrochemical sector that contributes to plastics that we need to protect. We'll get rid of liberal censorship laws that prevent our energy companies from talking about their incredible achievements and their environmental stewardship. We will legalize into the future your right to drive a gas or diesel-powered truck or car by repealing the liberal EV mandate. All of this will be in one bill. Next, we're going to reward those who build. We'll get rid of the capital gains tax when you reinvest your proceeds here in Canada. This will cause a boom in Canadian investment. Here in Canada, we get about half the investment per worker as they do in the United States of America. We get about 14, 15 grand of investment per worker in Canada. In the States, it's 28 grand, both measured in US dollars. No wonder that the American economy is leaving us behind. We need to reward investment by letting people who sell one asset and reinvest the money in Canada do so without capital gains tax. We will give free trade bonuses to the provinces, paying them the economic benefit that results from them opening their markets to fellow Canadians. We'll protect innovation by requiring in this law that the minister do a review and present a plan to stop the mass sell-off of Canadian inventions, discoveries, and innovations. We pay for all these incredible technological breakthroughs in Canada, often with tax dollars that subsidize it at university research and elsewhere, and then it's sold off to the Americans. And we become dependent on them for the technology that we ourselves invented. Finally, outside of the bill, we are making a call to action. Today, Conservatives are calling on Prime Minister Carney to have pipeline construction underway for at least 2 projects and to have at least 1 new natural gas liquefaction project and a road to the Ring of Fire in Ontario under construction by the first anniversary of him taking office. The Prime Minister can and must do this, and he can do it by consulting First Nations as required under Section 35 of the Constitution.
Okay, I'm going to go to Keith first here. It sounds to me like the Canadian Sovereignty Act is just the Conservative Party platform put into law, and it was rejected by the people who decided the election outcome in Ontario once already. But then he ends with, we need to have pipeline projects underway. Here's the problem. No company wants to build them. There are no proposed pipeline projects, west-east pipeline projects right now, because the Liberals are in power, and these pipeline companies are not going to invest millions and billions of dollars into something that will die on the vine, like Energy East, like Northern Gateway, and in no small part, just the saga of Keystone XL.
Well, I think they want to build them, but they don't want to go on a fool's errand.
Right.
And they know that, and I know that you meant, Sheila, I'm not trying to be unfair.
No.
Is that, I feel sorry for Pierre Poilievre.
Me too.
Because the reality is Canada's done. And the reason I say that, and I'm so resolved to it, is it's not just structural, the imbalance in how electoral power functions. It's cultural. It's the ethos of the people. And if he says things to be responsive to conservatives, by small c conservatives, so somebody who is politically conservative as opposed to a political party in Alberta and Saskatchewan or Western Canada, he's going to lose votes in Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, PEI, Nova Scotia. And if he says things to be responsive to their perspectives and needs and ethos of the world around them, he's going to lose votes on the prairies. And it's because we're fundamentally different people. And it's become increasingly clear that we see the world through a different lens, that Albertans and people from Saskatchewan want less government in their lives. They want government to get out of their way. They're okay not being totally safe. They want a little risk, actually. So to live a good life, you got to have some risk. And they don't frankly think government's capable of keeping them safe anyway. And, you know, then you don't go for a walk in the woods in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, because you might break your leg or start a fire. So I really feel sorry for him. I think it's a reflection that Canada's doomed, that it's become increasingly clear that we have different goals and we have different prospects. You know, one of the scariest tables I have come across, it's a table that it's about equalization. And it doesn't show it shows the raw numbers, but it shows the percentage of the revenue to the province that comes from equalization payments. And Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and a few others, it's 20% or more.
Ugh.
So 20% of their provincial revenue to deliver education, healthcare, infrastructure, social programs, etc., to run their jails and their court system come from Alberta and Saskatchewan, but primarily Alberta. So it's a dysfunction. What Pierre's announced, and just on the C5 stuff, you know, so the reason Carney said we're going to designate national projects, we're going to shovel ready, we're going to build, we're going to all these slogans together is a sentence. Here's the problem. Well, why did he have to bring in Bill C5? It's because he has acknowledged that the Bill C69, which is the Environmental Assessment Act, the tanker ban, the EV mandate, the net zero mandate, the emissions cap, all of these things combined are creating a disincentive to investment. Investment dollars have choices. They're going to other countries, creating wealth and jobs in those other countries instead of Canada. So he says, okay, I'm going to create a bypass. And the cabinet's going to approve certain projects. And then he says, well, yeah, but only those projects that every premier consents to. So now a pipeline to Tidewater on the West Coast can be vetoed by the premier of Nova Scotia? What the heck? That's not even the current condition of the dysfunctional system. And then he added last week that First Nations effectively get a veto. So now the bypass is actually more problematic and more clogged and more uncertain than the problematic legislative policy framework that it was designed to overcome. Canada's in a bad spot.
Yeah. Remember the National Energy Board, the NEB? And
Yeah.
how it was just non-political. It only cared about technical stuff. Wow, what a time to be alive. Michael, I saw you nodding along with Keith when he said that the West is culturally different. I would dare say culturally incompatible with the rest of the country. And so when I hear Pierre Poilievre saying these things, I think, yeah, it hits my ear nicely. But people in Toronto, they may be clutching their chests in disagreement.
You know, it's amazing that there are different types of conservatives in this country. You have the conservatives, Western conservatives, which we're all familiar with. But then you have Eastern conservatives that'll ban you for $25,000 for walking in the woods.
Right.
That's a conservative premier, right?
Right.
We are more kindred. I think we have to face this.
Yes.
The thing is, quite frankly, you know, I may be called anti-Canada because of saying this, but the reality is our kindred spirits are not east to west, they're north-south.
Mm-hmm.
BC basically is California. We have more in common with people in Texas, Idaho, North and South Dakota, Wisconsin. The East, they have more in common with people in New York and Maine and that sort of thing, in New Hampshire. right? We're north-south, not east-west. And the thing is, the reason why we'll lose is because there's just more of them there. There's more people in the east, and we will continue to lose. Pierre is speaking to basically people that understand it, but you're absolutely right. That was the platform of the Conservatives, and we lost in that. So as much as I'd like this, I don't know why I want Canada to sort of remain an independent country, other than basically this is what I've grown up with for the last 60 years. But the reality is, I have relatives who live in the U.S. They're enjoying their time down there way, way better than we're enjoying our time here in Canada. They're really enjoying their time there. And you ask them, is there any regrets? And the only response I get from them is, yes, I wish I would have done it sooner.
Huh.
And because Canada is an exceptionally hard and complex place to live, aside from the natural, the cold and the harshness of the climate. It's just hard to live here. Taxation, multiculturalism, which nobody sees eye to eye on anything. Immigration, the depth of social structures in this country. It's just harder to live here than it is in the U.S. Now, that's not in all cases, because the thing is, some places in the U.S. are hard to live with, particularly in poor areas and crime and that sort of thing. So it's not all roses. But if you are a person that wants to make something of themselves, wants to work, make money, live in a nice area, I think they've got a pretty much better life than we do down here, or up here rather.
Yeah. Lise, last word goes to you before we wrap up the panel.
Yeah, just going back to Pierre Poilievre's piece there. Yeah, that was nothing new under the sun. Anybody that saw him in the federal election campaign heard all of those things before. But what I thought when I was watching him is that Pierre Poilievre right now is experiencing Alberta immersion. Okay,
Yeah.
Alberta immersion. Because for years and years and years, Pierre Poilievre had his safe seat in Carleton. Okay, he was Ontario-centric, Ottawa-centric. He was surrounded by kind of woke Eastern conservatives that were in his sphere of influence and actively influencing him. And now that he's got a little bit of distance between himself and the woke Eastern conservatives, he's going to be hearing a lot of very Alberta opinions. And we can only hope that influence wears off on him real fast.
Yeah, he's going to be hearing from a lot of people who will vote for him in the by-election, but also want to leave Canada. And it's the Venn diagram there, I think, is largely a circle when it comes to Alberta. Gentlemen, we've got to wrap up this portion of the show. Thank you so much for going 43 minutes with us. We only asked you for a half an hour of your time, but I could listen to you gents talk about the problems with this country all day long.
All day, you guys. Just perfect. Thanks so much for being here.
Keith, thanks so much. Michael, thanks so much. Stay with us. Lise and I will be right back after the break.
Thank you.
Alberta powers Canada, but Ottawa keeps limiting our potential. The Alberta Next panel wants your ideas to strengthen our sovereignty within a united Canada. Help decide what's next for Alberta. Visit alberta.ca.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted. while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us. Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again.
Before we move on, I want to tell you guys about an opportunity to celebrate with Lise and I 10 years of Rebel News. Yes, hard to believe it's been 10 years. I'm not a day oneer, but I am a year oneer. I sort of came halfway through, sort of over the first quarter of the first year of Rebel News. I tried not to have a real job. I really did. But then Ezra just kept... time ran out on my excuse because my youngest wasn't in school full time, and then all of a sudden she was, and then Ezra's like,
That's also what you did. That's also what you did to me.
Yeah,
That's also what you did
Yep,
to me. Yeah, that's how we get roped into this place.
Yep.
And it couldn't have turned out better. Could it have, Sheila Gunn Reid?
It is therapeutic and restorative for my family too, because they're like, you're walking around the house ranting about this stuff. Now you just go into your basement, close the door to your little studio, get it out of your system, and you come upstairs all skipping around.
Your rant room. You have a rant room in the basement.
I do
Sheila
have a
Gunn
little
Reid.
rant room. Yes, we're in the rant room right now. But if you'd like to celebrate our birthday party with us, you have two chances. The first one is in Calgary on September 18th, 2025. It is at the Carriage House Hotel and Conference Center. Great place. We've got live music, meet and greet, photos with the cast. We're not the cast, and I wouldn't even say the talent, the journalists. And then we've got drinks and snacks. So that's the sort of one entry. There's also a VIP dinner with us if you want to do that. And we have Tamara Leach, convicted of exercising just a little bit too much freedom in Ottawa during the Freedom Convoy. She's our musical guest. And then event number 2, it's Toronto, October 16th, 2025. All of your same friends doing all of the same things, but just a different date. And my goodness, look at how happy Ezra is. I love that photo of him.
Just the
He's
best.
so happy.
Yeah.
So anyways, please join us. If you want tickets or details, go to happybirthdayrebel.com. Lise and I are going to be there. I have considered my outfit choices several times, and I think instead of choosing, I'm just going to lean into it like it's a Cher concert, maybe have a couple of different costume changes depending on the theme of the moment that I'm in.
We are treating this like the biggest night of our lives,
Rebel
Canada.
prom.
Yes, this is Rebel prom. And if you only knew the level of planning that's going on behind the scenes to make this the most memorable night of the year, well, you would just be shocked. You would just be shocked.
You're dressing like it's a coronation, your coronation, or that you're trying to upstage whoever's being coronated. I think maybe that's it.
I'm going for like partially coronation and then partially Kentucky Derby. Like it just
exactly it. That is exactly the vibe.
Yeah,
I've seen the dress. It is true.
I want to see our men folk in some really fancy formal wear, some double-breasted, some like ascots, some silk scarf sort of situation.
I insist that David Menzies shows up in something powder blue with black trim.
Just all day long. like all day long. This is just going to be the night to remember. So we may as well make the most of it, Sheila, Gunn, Reid. I know we will. And it's going to be, these are going to be the best 2 nights of our lives, the end. So we hope to see you guys there. Like come with us, come along on our formal rebel prom adventure.
You know what? Show up however you want, but this is what we're doing. I think that's how it is. Don't be intimidated. Don't feel obligated. This is what we're doing. Why? Because I don't dress up all that much.
Right. It's a great reason to dress up, though, guys. It's great.
Okay. Now, I'm glad Michael brought up the fact that Eastern conservatives are just different than Western ones, because we've got Doug Ford claiming to speak on behalf of the nation, when really I think he only speaks on behalf of the conservatives who seem to think that Mark Carney is doing a good job. He says that Canada has become united in opposition to Donald Trump. I don't think that's the case at all, unless his Canada doesn't include the West, which I am starting to believe that might be the case. Let's hear from him.
And I just want to thank each and every one of you. It's Team Ontario, Team Canada. And there's one thing President Trump has done. One thing. That's the only credit I'm going to give this guy, is he's united the country. He's united the country no matter what political stripe you're from. We're all Canadians, we're all Ontarians, and we're going to fight like no tomorrow. But thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario.
I feel like a lot of Westerners feel less and less Canadian than ever before. A lot of them are reevaluating how they felt about Canada, and particularly in the wake of these canola tariffs where nobody seems to give a damn. But like move heaven and earth for the steel workers and tank all kinds of trade deals to protect the dairy cartel in the East. But yeah, I don't know where he gets off speaking for the rest of us. That's for darn sure.
Well, I kind of do. I have a theory. So Doug Ford speaking on behalf of Canada is a relatively new development, whether he's on American talk shows or whether he's, in front of a podium just like this. All of a sudden, Doug is Mr. Voice of Canada. And if I didn't know better, this is Doug Ford lining up to maybe take a run at the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada. If I were if I've seen this before, and I have, this is Doug projecting future Doug. Okay, that's what he's doing. But the way that he is misrepresenting himself as the voice of Canada as it pertains to us Westerners, okay, we don't go on TV and crap talk the president of the United States. No, we don't stand in front of microphones.
We talk about how we had constructive conversations with his team.
That's right. We don't talk down to our American neighbors. We don't there is nothing in common with Doug Ford's brand of Canadianism. We have nothing to do with it. And he said something that was kind of interesting. He was like, we're all Canadian. We're all Ontarians. We're not, Doug. We are absolutely
definitely no. So, don't you put that on me.
No, exactly. Right. Like I identify as a Westerner, respect my pronouns, Doug.
Right.
Which is Saskatchewan, Alberta, right? Those are
those are our pronouns. Alberta.
But the man is not helping. The man is not helping international relations or trade negotiations. Doug Ford should have his mouth stuffed with dirty socks for the next 6 weeks. Okay, that's what should happen.
Do you know who I would rather have speaking on behalf of Canada? Ben Bankus doing his Doug Ford impersonation.
Dude,
that's who I would rather than Doug Ford.
All day long, Ben Bankus. Like Ben Bankus would make a great ambassador to the United
China.
States. Yeah. A human monkey hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. There's another video from Doug Ford. He tells the Americans that tariffs don't work. I've got thoughts on this as a Westerner. Let's watch.
Yeah.
My message to the U.S., and if I go on U.S. media, be it CNN or whoever, my message to the Americans, this does not work. Tariffs do not work. I've been listening to Ronald Reagan a lot, and, tariffs are terrible for the global economy. What it does is reduce competitiveness, and it has more of a monopoly. People rely on government handouts, and what that causes? That causes inflation. So it does not work, and proof is in the pudding. I've been pounding the president and Howard Lutnick, Secretary Lutnick. You're doing nothing but hurting the American people. When you tariff Canadians, you're hurting Americans, and proof is in the pudding now. The auto sector, you heard, is $6.5 billion they've lost. And that's just the beginning. It's just going to continue. And the mayor mentioned it. I've always said you can't unscramble an egg. You got to make the omelet larger. And let's grow together. Let's create the AmCan fortress. That's what we need to do. And then Procter & Gamble announced $1 billion loss, and Mattel and Walmart, and that list goes down. And they don't even have enough workers to fill the jobs down in the U.S.
What?
So,
No.
folks, let's just keep focusing on what we can do. And that's what I've said to the premiers and the prime minister. Yeah, always keep an eye on Trump, but let's focus on how we can be more competitive.
Oh my God.
And be the greatest jurisdiction in the world. We got the critical minerals. We have the energy. We're leading the G7 in nuclear energy that everyone wants. We're leading the world with small modular reactors. So we have everything going for ourselves.
Brookfield.
So I appreciate the question. Sorry, I'm getting a little passionate today about this because that guy drives me crazy down south, I'll tell you. And 41 million other Canadians.
No, again, don't speak for me. No, Doug, no, stop. Who's clapping? Who's clapping, by the way? The journalists?
Yeah.
Yes. Again, he doesn't speak for 41 million Canadians. And as a Western Canadian farmer, tariffs do work. If your plan is to crush the people that you are directing the tariffs at, sure they do. Just ask the Canadian farmers who just had $1 billion vaporized in one day. And it's only going to get worse. And so tariffs do have effective consequences. And it's interesting that Doug Ford doesn't know that that's happening because, again, he thinks that Canada ends at, I don't know, Dryden, Canola, somewhere around there anyway.
Yeah. Wasn't it Bradwell that said taking in your own laundry is not a business? You know what I mean? And that's what Doug Ford is basically claiming here is that, we should make inroads in our relationships within the country and sort of look at America as unworthy of our products and services, basically, is what Doug Ford is saying. And again, antagonizing the President of the United States. Did you hear what he said, Sheila Gunn Reid, antagonizing Trump? Trump values one thing above any other, and that's loyalty. And he doesn't take kindly to premiers of obscure Canadian colonies like Doug Ford would be in Trump's mind when Doug Ford goes on the TV and tells off the President of the United States. The President of the United States is not going to like this, Doug. He's not. So whatever help you think you're offering Team Canada, you're not.
Didn't Doug Ford try to put a tariff on Ontario electricity, as in withholding it entirely? Withholding it entirely? I guess that wasn't effective because after a while, by a while, I mean a couple of hours, he realized how stupid that would be.
Well, he did that publicly, right? He did that publicly. And then Howard Lutnick hauled him into line faster than you can say ambassador. And here he's bragging. Okay, he's bragging about what a hard ass he is when he talks to Howard Lutnick and when he talks to our American trade partners. Maybe you're taking the wrong approach, Doug. Like maybe big bargy, large and in chargey Doug Ford isn't the guy we need to be doing this on our behalf.
I don't even think he's big bargy, large and in chargey because he doesn't even have that vibe. It's like it's like he's faking that. It doesn't seem sincere.
He's a blowhard. He's a blowhard where he talks big in front of a microphone or on CNN. He's bragging.
I love how he CNN. Yes, the choice network of conservatives globally. Yes.
Yeah, bragging that he's being on CNN. He's a blowhard. But then really what it comes down to is he's harming his own industries in Ontario. That's
Yeah.
the steel and aluminum industries. So again, Doug, for the 1000th time, well done. Well done. Crap that bed just better than anybody else crapped a bed.
But you know what? I love that he thinks he's really making an impact, really getting a message to Republicans by going on the network that is seen largely at airports and doctors' offices.
Yes. Yes.
Good job. Good
There we
job.
go.
Really getting your message out there.
Whoever set up those interviews, they really want you to do well.
His communications person.
Of course.
Let's go to Michelle Rempel-Garner, who has just been ripping it up on the immigration file, but on a lot of files. Like, she's really great. This is not a sponsored ad, but you guys should subscribe to her Substack.
Thank you.
Very good. And she is not afraid of independent media, by the way. Like, she will repost Rebel News stuff, True North stuff, Western Standard stuff. She doesn't care where the information comes from. And so, anyways, there was a time there where she was a little bit, but I think it had something to do with the leader at the time, perhaps, because she really seems to be unleashed and she's great on the immigration file. But not just on the immigration file. She is a Westerner. And we are plagued with wildfires every single year. In fact, you will recall that poor forest management at the hands of the federal government caused a UNESCO World Heritage Site, 1/3 of it burned down in Jasper last year. And then the Alberta government had to jump in and help. And then they did like their after fire report. And they said, you know what the problem with that fire was? Alberta was trying to help too much. Thanks. Sure.
Okay.
Anyway. Michelle Rempel-Garner rips the federal government a new one because the Liberals 4 fire seasons ago says, okay, we're going to get some federal water bombers. The provinces usually contract with these, with their forestry department, their ag department, or like it used to be under forestry and agriculture here in Alberta. Now I think it might be under emergency preparedness. But either way, the provinces usually contract with these water bombers because they're so expensive, right? They go from wildfire season, and these companies just go, and that's how they pay their bills, right? Alberta's wildfire season is at a different time than California's, and so on, and then that's how it works. But you have to get on contract with these guys. And the federal government said, well, we're going to buy some. We're going to buy a bunch more. Let's hear what Rempel has to say.
The bans that are in place on hiking and other recreational activities in forested areas in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, given the wildfire considerations right now?
Sure. Well, first of all, the fear that people experience during wildfire season is something that a lot of Canadians know. You know, I think back to what happened in Jasper National Park last year as an Albertan. And so my hearts are with them and their concern. And also with the firefighters and first responders who put their lives in harm's way during these situations. But I also think about the utter lack of action from the federal government on the issue of forest fires. I think it's four seasons ago now, 4 full wildfire seasons ago, the Liberals promised more water bombers, more firefighters. Where are they? The other thing is that my Conservative colleague Mark Dalton put forward a bill to increase the penalties for people who commit arson that causes a wildfire. So these are both measures that could have prevented and contained wildfire, and the Liberals have done nothing. So wait, my concern is this. Whenever there's a major crisis, what the Liberal government has done by their inaction has conditioned Canadians to expect that the only response they can see out of their federal government is to restrict their movement. And again, I understand that I understand the fear and concern of people in the Maritimes right now, but that the only response they get from their federal government is a tacit, well, I guess you're going to have to restrict your movement. That's not right. So, you know, today we're calling upon the federal government to actually get serious about this issue, pass our bill, put forward the resources that they promised so that Canadians aren't put into this situation. I see this as a lack of responsibility on the federal government.
That was perfect.
It was lovely. It was
also,
lovely.
Can we just stop and appreciate her weight with the jackals in the media? That's how you have to deal with them. When they're going to cut off or give you like a, so what you're saying is, no, shut them up, finish what you're trying to say. Every conservative should do that right there.
Gorgeous, just perfect. But she did put a fine line on the way that the federal government gatekeeps public safety as it pertains to fire season in Canada. So what they're saying is yes, we created the problem by ignoring forest management for all of these years, but we're also going to be the only people that can provide a solution. So just like they did in Alberta, saying, oh, the government of Alberta got in the way of our firefighting in Jasper National Park. What should happen is that there should be on the ground coordination, all hands on deck to be able to fight these fires, tamp them out as soon as possible. And what we have is gatekeeping by the federal government so that they may be the ones to say, well, we just, don't you see, we kept everybody safe. We just provided the solution by causing so much more damage. So it's wild. It's just wild the way that this has been weaponized by the federal government. It's wild.
You used the phrase nothing new under the sun earlier in the show, and this is exactly it. So she is saying the federal government didn't deal with scarcity of resources for federal wildfire fighting. So they didn't deal with that. It's not like in Alberta where it's like, yeah, we just add some more money, or in Alberta, we extended wildfire season, like we open earlier now after catastrophic fires in Fort McMurray and Slave Lake, and now I guess Jasper under the mandate of the federal government. But they've created scarcity.
Yes.
And then what is the restriction? Or what is the only way the federal government chooses to deal with it? Because there's a choice here. And it is to restrict movement. Exactly the same thing played out during COVID. The federal government unresponsive to healthcare scarcity. And so what is their response? Restrict the movement of the people. You're punishing the victims of your scarcity.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. And instead of the federal government committing to initiatives that would have a meaningful impact on wildfire season in Canada, they commit to green initiatives.
Right.
And they shovel money at green initiatives. So Sheila Gunn Reid had a brilliant report back in the days of the Jasper wildfire about the federal government putting in fire hydrants, right? Like special, sustainable, net zero, green fire hydrants in Jasper National Park that didn't have the proper connections to connect to the fire trucks that the province would have been able to supply. So just get that, Canada, that the federal government is actively throwing up barriers to public safety and forest management, and would rather, because it's easier for them, just to lock down the population.
Yeah. And, you know, when during the committee examination into the response in Jasper, forestry experts were saying, like, at any point you should have dealt with this, but you let it get so bad that even mechanically removing the damaged forest that was damaged over a decade ago by the pine beetle. By the way, cold temperatures killed the spread of the pine beetle. So
nice.
It was not climate change that caused the proliferation of it. It was actually the fact that climate change isn't happening that ended the spread of the pine beetle. But they were saying you left it get so bad that mechanically clearing it could have caused a spark at that point, where it was just like a no-win situation, and it should have been dealt with before. Much like this, 4 years ago, should have been dealt with it. And the forestry industry were saying, we would love to have helped, but you won't let us help you inside a national park because of your crazy green initiatives?
Well, because the federal government is low-key scared that people visiting the national park are going to see, great big pieces of equipment or work going on, or
They said
cut
that.
lines.
They said that.
Yes, they were all like, the federal government was so invested in the optics
Right.
of when in reality, forests are really, really complex ecosystems unto themselves, and they require careful management. And because the federal government was more interested in how it would look to visitors to a national park, they didn't undertake any of the safeguards that would have made a meaningful difference.
Yeah. Active logging stops the spread of a wildfire, because then you have a forest that is a bunch of different ages. If you're going to artificially suppress fires, because people live and work in the forest now, and that's okay. I believe that we should be able to live and work in the forest, and that requires artificial forest fire suppression. You need to make sure that parts of the forest are new and old, so that when the fire spreads, it hits the new part and it slows down. And forestry, logging, and then replanting is essential in that. And that doesn't happen in the national parks. It just doesn't.
Yep. No. Abandoned the national parks.
Yeah.
But good thing we have those pride sidewalks in the national parks. Good thing,
the pride
guys.
stickers, the pride beavers.
That's
I felt
what's most
safer already
important.
over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The park next door to me, they actually have an overpopulation of elk. So then they allowed hunting in there, but not white people hunting, only Indigenous hunting, because apparently the animal is less dead. I guess I don't know what the logic was there, but I was like, if I go in there with a bow, if I get a tag and go in there with a bow, isn't the point of it at the end of the day to cull the herd and then consume the meat? I'll do that, but no, it didn't work out that way. And then, if I recall correctly, they didn't have many takers, and I was like, I would, but I was the wrong type of hunter. Anyway, I'll complain about that for a very long time. We've got Michelle Rempel again. Now she's talking about amending the criminal code after a spate of high-profile cases which saw non-citizens being given softer sentences. Anyway, she had a great press conference yesterday. Let's watch.
Today I'm announcing that Conservatives will introduce legislation to amend the criminal code and restore the value of Canadian citizenship by ending the practice of judges considering a non-citizen's immigration status in sentencing. Since 2013, a Supreme Court ruling has permitted judges to consider immigration status when sentencing. This has been seen in several recent high-profile cases. For example, a permanent resident received a conditional sentence after being convicted of trying to purchase sexual services from a 15-year-old, as a stronger penalty would have hindered him and his wife from obtaining Canadian citizenship. Another non-citizen in Canada on a visitor's permit was convicted twice of groping an 18-year-old woman's genitals at a bar, yet received a discharge to avoid a permanent criminal record and to allow for an appeal of their deportation. Anyone seeking residence or citizenship in Canada has responsibilities as well as rights. When it comes to sentencing non-citizens, Canada has essentially adopted a form of two-tier justice where judges can and have given lighter sentences to individuals who are non-citizens by virtue of this ruling. This offends all principles of fairness that should be foundational to our justice system. This is why, once the House of Commons resumes this fall, Conservatives will introduce legislation to amend the criminal code to rectify this issue. Our bill will add a section after Section 718.202 of the Criminal Code, which will expressly outline that any potential impact of a sentence on the immigration status of a convicted non-citizen offender or that of their family members should not be taken into consideration by a judge when issuing a sentence.
I can't wait to see the Liberals argue against that good common sense measure that protects the public safety of Canadians, but also prevents the devaluation of our citizenship.
Well, that's just it. And this is like amending the criminal code to remove considerations on people that aren't Canadians. Creating a two-tier justice system can be applied across the board. I think the point that I gravitated to was that we're admitting we have a two-tier justice system in Canada. So if we are calling for an amendment of the criminal code pertaining to this part of two-tier justice, then maybe we should consider applying it to all parts of two-tier justice in Canada, because we know that our justice system needs huge reform. Sheila Gunn Reid, it just does. Our justice system, just like so many other public institutions, have been infiltrated by people who would subject their personal ideologies upon the courts. Okay, this is what's happened, and this is a great example. And I hope that we can get it done, but also apply it to every other place where there is two-tier justice in this country. This is especially pertinent when it comes to First Nations people who are convicted and who get to have special considerations via a GLADU report considered as part of their sentencing. It's the same thing. It's two-tier justice. So in whatever way we can dial this back, I think it's a great idea, and good for Michelle Rempel-Gardner for opening the door to having this conversation.
Just let's play the other side of this. Could you imagine a Canadian citizen convicted of sex offenses against a minor, thus successfully arguing to a judge, give me a conditional sentence that expunges my record after 18 months or whatever, because I want to travel to the United States and a criminal record won't allow that for me. He would be laughed out of the courtroom.
Right. Those considerations aren't made once you've been convicted. Once I do believe that the right of appeal is real important in these cases too. But if you're convicted, if you go through the entire appeal process and you're still found to be guilty, you should not be able to claim special status and say, but your sentence is going to have a real big bearing on my life. It's supposed
my ability to go to Disneyland. Yeah.
It's supposed to have a really big impact on your life. It's supposed to inconvenience you.
Yeah.
No, straight back to that hellhole of a country where those people came from. Straight back. Like today.
Out you go. Out you go for the sake of our daughters. Out you go.
Deported.
And people have heard me say this on the show. I actually think there are things that people should never be pardoned for. But
Agreed.
At the same time, I think both Canada and the United States are too strict on some things that have happened 20 years ago, a bar fight, getting caught with a joint, even theft or whatever, stuff like that. If you've lived a good life, you've stayed out of trouble for 20 years, even 10 years.
If you learned your lesson.
If you learned your lesson, I think the pardon process or the record suspension process is too complicated, too long, and it prohibits people from getting on with their lives. I truly believe that. There should come a time where your sentence is just spent and you're not that person anymore. But then there's this stuff. And I think it would behoove a government that cares about public safety reform and criminal justice reform to think about both of those things. We treat some people like they are beyond redemption, and we treat other people like they don't even need it. And it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, in the new country, Sheila Gunn Reid, I like to say that every single episode. In the new country, we are going to have to make sure to take a long, hard look at that.
Right.
Yeah.
Your drunk driving offense from when you were 19, but now you're 35. We'll get rid of it. That's what I think.
But if you are a sexual offender,
never.
Okay, never.
You're not allowed to change your name. I don't even want you moving. Okay, you're stuck there. Anyways, let's. Olivia is telling me to. Because David Menzies needs the studio. We've got a couple of chats, and then I dug up a daily cringe because this feels like entrapment. But also, I'm questioning the people that they're actually catching. versus who they probably should be catching. And also, I don't know if this stuff is criminal, and if it is, should it? I don't know. Let us know in the chats. But PJ Menezes, it's not Menzies. $20. The fact that Carney couldn't reach a trade deal with Mexico, this is such a great point. A country governed by a socialist leftist government says a lot, I guess. People enjoy doing the elbows up chicken dance whilst having their knickers pulled down.
It's a true story. He couldn't pull it off with Mexico, can't pull it off with America. Not much going on with the UK either. UK is making trade deals with America. Like, that's like not even being able to wrangle Mexico. But maybe this is the end of the United States Mexico Canadian trade agreement. Like maybe we're witnessing it in real time.
There will be Buffalo, United States, Mexico trade agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Buffalo Accords. The Buffalo Accords.
Oh,
doesn't that sound delightful?
I want nothing more than to go on a trade mission to export Western Canadian conservatism and products and services to Mexico. I just can't wait.
I never want to work for government, but I will take a diplomatic appointment to Midland, Texas.
Great. You make great ambassadors.
Galveston? Can I be the special envoy to Galveston, Texas?
Yeah,
I'd be fine.
I'd like to be the ambassador to Cancun. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Rocky Mountain Duke gives us $5. You ladies have become national media darlings for us sane conservatives. Well, thank you so much.
So nice.
Question on Alberta, Saskatchewan independence. No clear leader has emerged yet for a new country. And anyone you think would be a fit? I think
that's a great question. Oh, I want to answer it, but my answer would literally be 45 minutes long.
Yeah, you know what? Here, and I think before a leader emerges, I think people have to decide if we're leaving or not, and then that stuff will sort out. Because I'm worried about people being like, I don't like this leader, so I'm not voting for separation. I don't want that to be a hindrance when people are making up their minds. I don't want them to fall into that tribalism.
Yeah.
That come about after.
That there is no identified like leader of the separatist movement in Alberta and Saskatchewan is actually a very good thing, because right now this whole thing is so complex. Just think of it like a nighttime full of stars. That's how many points we have to consider in this question, right? And what's happening in the universe is the stars are aligning. Okay, all of those stars are lining up for the benefit of Saskatchewan and Alberta. And then only when the time is right, will the cream rise to the top, and we will get that person will emerge. But I ain't worried. Like, I ain't worried that we're just in the lining it up stages of this, because unlike Quebec, right? Like unlike Quebec, Saskatchewan and Alberta have never done this before. So there's a lot of questions that we have to get answers to. There's a lot of considerations that have to get made. But this is not outside the purview of the people of Alberta and Saskatchewan. We're used to doing hard work. This is what we do. We figure out solutions to our problems. And so that's what we're doing right now. Is we're just getting all of those.
And our talent pool is not shallow, right? Like the conservative thought leaders ripping it up on the national stage. Guess where they're by and large from?
Western Canada. Yeah.
We think about these things. We think about conservatism. We think about rights. And so I'm not worried about somebody of quality or several people of quality presenting themselves once Albertans and Saskies have made up their minds about should they stay or should they go.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a very long answer for a show that we were trying to wrap up.
And we didn't even give an answer.
but a fascinating conversation, and thanks so much for the question.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't want people to be hung up on who the leader is and that then be a hindrance to them.
It's not time yet.
Checking
time yet. Yep.
Right. Like I don't want people to say, I would go, but I don't like this leader, so we're gonna stay. I don't want that. That would be a nightmare.
Yes.
We've got Paul Newman gives us $2.79, and Long live the United Republic of Athabasca. That is not terrible.
Oh, Sheila, like just look at my tattoo, guys. Okay, we have the Alberta and Saskatchewan
do.
tattoos
Yeah.
on our right hand finger, and we have Athabasca carved out because
On
it's
each
our
side.
shared, yeah,
That's our shared thing that we have is
like
like
two
Athabasca.
puzzle pieces. Yeah,
Yep.
two puzzle pieces. So
Yep.
yeah, I love this. I
Yep.
love this for
That's
us.
such a
What was it, Sheila Gunn Reid? Say it
United
again?
Republic of Athabasca.
Athabasca. Now that's something I could get behind right today. I don't know, we're going to forward that for consideration. Thank you.
Yeah. The Athabasca party. No, we don't need any more parties. The parties are the problem. Okay, Cicely Bardwell gives us $5. Says, ladies, I love donating, but it's nearly month's end. My cheap rears its head. But thank you. Listen, Cicely, you've been generous all month long. You don't owe us an explanation. Thank you so much for being a constant supporter of the work that we do here, Rebel News. Yeah.
Yeah, Cicely, thanks so much for
We
being
owe you
here.
a free one, in fact.
Yeah,
So-
your presence is your present, Cicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So our daily cringe, I know we need to wrap up the show. I've got a manager's meeting to get into, and I've
Okay.
I think David Menzies needs the studio.
Just for the record, though, I could do this all day. Just plainly, just for the record, I could do this all day.
You know, that's why we hang out on the weekends together. We drive hundreds of kilometers to spend our weekends together. I drag my daughter with me most of the time. And it's so that we can continue to do this.
No, seriously, because if I go too many days without getting Sheila Gunn Reid in person,
it's difficult for me.
It is like therapy. This is like therapy. So thank you everybody for tagging along with us.
This comes just by way of libs of TikTok. UK female cops are going undercover in, I don't know, it looks like jogging clothes. They described it as tight clothes to bait men into catcalling them and beeping at them, which apparently is a crime in the UK.
What? Show me this video right now. I've already got a thing to say.
And they're arresting them for pre-crimes before they commit more serious offenses. Anyways, I, as a woman who is on the runway to 50, this isn't a crime. In fact, I want more of this. But anyways, let's watch this.
These women aren't friends out for a run. They're actually undercover police officers taking to the streets in Surrey as part of a new operation trying to stop people catcalling and harassing female runners.
We get honked at, the staring, the hanging out of the window just to look at us, and it's so prevalent.
And police teams are ready to intervene the moment the officers are beeped at, followed or shouted at, pulling people over.
Those kind of behaviours may not be criminal offences in themselves, but they still need to be addressed. And of course, the people that are likely to commit those kind of behaviours, you know, they may then go on to commit more serious offences or more serious behaviours.
Okay, Lise, let us have it.
Okay, well, first of all, this is entrapment because did you see
Completely.
like booty shorts and yoga pants? You think that that's not going to get people to look at you? It absolutely is. But as a person who spends a lot of time working on the side of Saskatchewan highways in my super cool van, I get honked at quite frequently. Okay, quite frequently, and I love it. I love it. It's a little back and forth between two people just crossing paths, and that's honestly what I think. Like that kind of catcalling is acknowledging the other person, maybe acknowledging what they're doing or what they're wearing, but it's just a quick interaction. It's harmless. What on earth is happening in the UK?
Well, I saw a video of UK police taking knitting needles off an old lady and a gardening trowel because it could be used as a weapon.
Okay.
But in the meantime, they're covering up for these pedophile gangs. Where even the police are involved, these grooming gangs. Nobody seems to be doing a damn thing about that. People are protesting this, but what are police resources going to? honking, staring, and hanging out the window. Those are the reasons they have a like this is a sting operation, like a prostitution sting.
Yeah,
but
because
it's
you know you have a whole team of guys in the background holding the cameras in the cars, waiting for the
Crazy.
signal. Like, this is insane. So we have police being paid to watch other police run in booty shorts and yoga pants, and nobody thinks
I guess
that
it's
this
good
is
work if you can get it, I guess.
slightly weird.
And then they arrest them for what, I don't know, because they admit it's not actually a crime. They said we arrest them because these are the sort of people who go on to commit more serious crimes. Again, I don't think you have to convict people of pre-crimes in the UK because they have plenty of real sexual offenses happening right now. If we could get you people to pay attention to it. They have made 18 arrests in a month doing this.
Shut your mouth. Oh my God. Well, I just want to put it out there. Like, feel free to say hello, to look out your windows. This is me. It's, you know, when that happens, it's like, still got it a little bit. This is also a young woke woman's problem. Like, this is also a young, because a person.
That's exactly it.
People our age, okay, women our age, for like, I like that. I like that so much. Thank you. More of that. Don't do this, Canadian men. Okay, keep being friendly, keep waving, keep honking, engaging with the women. We all know we make the best relationships, friendships, the balance between men and women, and that's part of this. That's part of this.
Do you know, I am a runner, as you know, and I do get honked at, but it's usually because I'm wearing earbuds and these people want me to get off the damn road so they can get past me with their sprayer without taking my head off.
I get honked at because I wear booty shorts in the van. Okay, we're just gonna just like those
once.
cops.
I would
do.
like a honk to be a compliment, but usually it's like, do get off the road, Gunn. Like, it's just one of the local farmers telling me to watch myself.
We're gonna toodle, okay, on our next toodle, which is coming up very, very soon. We're just gonna spend some hours on the side of a Western Canadian highway and just watch Sheila Gunn Reid. You will be amazed. Okay, we'll forge relationships with passing traffic. That's how it works.
Yeah, I'm not calling the cops. How's that?
No, we're not gonna.
Okay. Let's wrap up the show because I see that I am being summoned into my next meeting. Lise, thanks so much for joining me these last 2 days. Special thanks to our panelists, Keith Wilson, Michael Couros, and Olivia and Efron, who's supposed to be having a day off, but he still put together a lot of the show today, coordinating it. Thanks to everybody who works behind the scenes at Rebel News to make sure the show is there for whenever you want to watch it, however you want to watch it and or listen to it. And those of you who pitched in a little bit to keep the lights on and who share the show and spread the good word of the show. It's a great free way to help us get around this intense Carney-esque internet censorship. Lisa, I'll be quiet. Anything from you before we shut the door on the show today?
No, but just another great week, and thanks so much for having me. And I will see you guys next Tuesday.
No, Monday night.
Monday. Oh, we have a special election coverage Monday night. You're right. Yes. You'll see me Monday night and then next Tuesday. Same place, same time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thanks everybody. New closeout for the show is, shoot, what is it? Oh, if you find us offensive, maybe don't find us at all.